the house, he is employed. He is in the informal sector.
First of all, let's talk about that. I can break it off in two phases. First of all, the national insurance. In 2009, the Honorable House of the Assembly, which is made up from a majority point of view of lawyers, passed a piece of legislation.
Is that so?
Sure.
That used to be so. I don't know if it's made up of a majority of lawyers, but a lot of lawyers there. Make your point.
A lot of lawyers passed a piece of legislation called the Unemployment Benefit Scheme, which violates it, which is unconstitutional. Here's why. It discriminates against self-employed, that same self-employed person, myself, it discriminates against us. Why was that allowed to happen?
Why? How does it discriminate against you?
Well, the unemployment benefit schemes allows practically all employed persons that become unemployed to benefit if they become unemployed, excluding elderly people and self-employed persons. If unfortunate circumstances encounter his business as a self-employed person through no fault of his own, even through bad policies of successive government, and he's now unemployed, even though he would have to pay according to the scheme for his employees and make that contribution, he can't benefit from that scheme. Article 26, 1, 2, and 3 says we cannot pass those type of legislation because it discriminates. It affords one benefit to one group of people while at the same time denying another group of people.
A self-employed person
cannot benefit under that scheme.
Cannot benefit under the
unemployment benefit scheme.
So what you're saying is if a taxi driver, if his car is a write-off,
yes,
and he can't work,
he can't go to that scheme for help.
Well, that is not necessarily so.
It is so, Mr. Jones. It is a fact.
I had a conversation with the NIB people.
I heard it.
But I don't want to pursue that, but that is a subject for another time.
On the informal sector,
yeah.
First of all, the government's responsibility, as we see it, is, as I guess is understood around democratic society, is to create the environment, put the rules, the regulation in place, and hopefully they put the enforcement mechanism in place so that people know what is the clear path that they need to follow or go. Now, if that's not in place, then what do you expect the informal sector to do?
Yeah, but the informal sector thrives in a disordered society.
Well,
you don't see no order in this society, right? Because you have so many people who are selling things all over the place. You can buy 400 phone cards today and give it to Mary, Jane, and Sue to go on the street and sell, right? Yes?
Well, I don't know that for a fact, but
that is what is happening.
But
people who are selling phone cards, some of them are agents for other people. Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right. But
now, how do you regulate that?
Well, Mr. Jones, just like you regulate everything else. How do you regulate a robber? How do you regulate a robber? First of all, you put the laws and policies in place, so everybody has a clear understanding what the rules in this country is. Now, you put the laws in place. If you should violate that law, there are clearly defined consequences if it is enforced. Only thing you can do is put the rules, the policy, the regulation in place in the first instance, which every government should do, and hope the enforcement mechanism is there, and pray and hope the people follow it. And if they don't, you have institutions in place to ensure that they don't, or find out why they aren't doing it. You can only do that in an orderly society if that is your intention, to have an orderly society.
Mr. Smith, let's talk about order. Does this association have any ways and means or any plans to police itself? See, because we live in a country where things just proliferate and there's no enforcement.
We have
you know one of the complaints in many residential areas, right, is that people selling takeout in a residential area, got a little convenience shop.
Yeah, but Demetrius has a mobile restaurant.
No, he's licensed. He's
Yeah,
licensed.
no, but the fact of the matter is, I don't know how you license a mobile restaurant. I don't know how you do that, but I mean, you probably know. But, you know.
Well, let's talk to it. First of all,
How do you police yourself?
No, first of all, we have a disciplinary committee. We have certain rules or criteria for members. And those rules and criteria that each member agrees to and sign off on must be adhered to, because those are the rules and regulations and criteria for being a part of the association. For those that find themselves short of those rules and regulation, we have a disciplinary committee that brings them in and reminds them and say, look, you agreed, we agreed that this is the way we're going to operate. We're going to be above board. We can follow the rules and the regulation. We can set a new example here. And if you feel that you can abide by these things that you've already agreed to abide by, for the sake of the association, for the sake of our reputation, for the sake of moving ourselves, our family, and this country forward, these must be abided to.
Is the association registered?
Yes, sir.
With
We have registration in place with our memorandums and articles of association. We have a constitution. We have bylaws. And we also have what is known as Madam Secretary referred to, a strategic business plan.
You needed any approvals of the government?
We basically needed the government to register the organization because it's a non-profit organization. So you had to go through that process. And get that
Okay, I have to
registration.
take a break here. This is the platform, and this is the final break on the platform today. Marvin Smith, the chairman of the BBA,
Yes, sir.
Bahamas Business Association, and Demetrius Fraser are here. We take this break and we'll come right back. This is the final segment of the platform, and we are talking about the Bahamas Business Association. Mr. Enos?
You know, we live in a country where there's a great deal of exploitation,
Yes.
right? Where people don't stand by their product, people don't stand by their work, right? And many of these people are in the informal as well as the formal sector, right? Somebody who joins your organization and you buy a product or they are commissioned to do some work and they don't do the work, what redress does the customer have?
Well, we will. I wouldn't say we're the first, but an article appeared in the Nassau Guardian where we addressed this, and we fully support a better business bureau. But let me qualify that. First of all, we ask for the playing field to be level, and we address most of those things that we